The engagement party looked perfect from the outside. Golden lights hung across the garden terrace, soft music floated through the warm evening air, and champagne glasses clinked beneath the sound of polite laughter. Everyone kept smiling at us like we were the ideal couple, beautiful, successful, lucky enough to have found forever. But standing beside my fiancé that night, I felt strangely invisible. His hand rested possessively on my waist while he spoke to another group of business partners, barely noticing I hadn't said a word in nearly 20 minutes. That had become normal lately. We looked perfect together in photographs, but somewhere along the way, love had turned into performance. Then I saw him. Ethan, my fiancé's closest friend. He stood near the bar in a dark suit, sleeves slightly rolled up, whiskey glass in hand. The moment our eyes met across the crowded terrace, something dangerous moved between us instantly. Not surprise. Recognition. Like both of us had been trying not to look for each other all night. I quickly looked away, my pulse suddenly uneven. That was the problem with Ethan. He noticed things. The silence in my smile, the tension behind my laughter, the loneliness I tried hiding from everyone else, and worst of all, he made me feel seen. Hours passed painfully slowly. Guests danced. Music grew louder. My fiancé drank more than usual, disappearing repeatedly into conversations that didn't include me. Every time I glanced across the terrace, I found Ethan already looking at me. By midnight, the air inside the party felt suffocating. I slipped away quietly onto the balcony, overlooking the city lights below. Cool wind brushed against my bare shoulders as I closed my eyes for one small moment of peace. Then I heard footsteps behind me. "You okay?" Ethan asked softly. I should have walked away immediately. Instead, I laughed weakly. "Do I really look that miserable?" He stepped beside me at the railing. Only to someone paying attention. The honesty in his voice hit harder than it should have. Silence settled between us, heavy and intimate. Below us, the city glowed endlessly. But up there on that balcony, the world suddenly felt smaller, more dangerous. "You deserve better than pretending," he whispered. I turned toward him slowly. Big mistake. Because he was standing too close now, close enough for me to notice the tension in his expression, the restraint, and then his hand brushed lightly against mine. That single touch shattered whatever self-control we still had left. The kiss happened suddenly, intensely, wrong in every possible way. But the moment his lips touched mine, everything else disappeared. The music, the party, the guilt. Until a camera flash lit the balcony. Both of us pulled apart instantly. And somewhere in the darkness behind us, someone was watching. The kiss haunted me for days. No matter how hard I tried to bury it beneath wedding plans, meetings, and forced smiles, I could still feel it. The warmth of Ethan's hand against mine, the way the world had disappeared for one reckless moment on that balcony. And worse, he felt it too. I could see it every time we were in the same room. 3 days after the engagement party, my fiancé hosted a small dinner at our apartment for a few close friends. Ethan arrived late, dressed casually, calm on the outside, but the second our eyes met across the dining table, tension wrapped around the room like smoke. We barely spoke. That was the problem. Silence between us had become louder than conversation. I avoided looking at him for most of the night, terrified someone else would notice what had changed between us. But every accidental glance felt dangerous now, charged with something impossible to ignore. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I frowned slightly and opened the message beneath the table. One kiss can ruin everything. My blood turned cold instantly. I looked around the table sharply. Nobody seemed to notice. Another message arrived seconds later. "Tell him the truth, or I will." Fear crashed into me so suddenly I almost dropped the phone. Someone knew, not guessed, knew. Across the table, Ethan noticed my expression immediately. His eyes narrowed slightly as if he could sense something was wrong. "You okay?" my fiancé asked casually beside me. I forced a smile too quickly. "Just work stuff." Lie. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur. Every laugh sounded fake. Every touch from my fiancé made guilt twist deeper inside me. And through it all, I could feel Ethan watching me carefully, like he knew the night was beginning to unravel. When the guests finally left, I locked myself in the bathroom and reread the messages over and over. No name, no explanation, only threats. My heart pounded as terrifying possibilities rushed through my mind. Someone from the party, a staff member, one of our friends, or worse, someone closer. Then another message appeared. You should ask Ethan who else was on that balcony. I stopped breathing. At that exact moment, my fiancé knocked softly on the bathroom door. Babe, he called gently, who keeps texting you this late? I stared at my reflection in the mirror, panic rising fast inside my chest. Because suddenly, this wasn't just about one forbidden kiss anymore. Someone wanted to destroy us, and they were only getting started. By the end of the week, pretending had become impossible. Every room Ethan entered felt smaller. Every accidental touch lasted too long. And every time my fiancé smiled at me, guilt tightened painfully inside my chest. Then came the weekend trip. A private lake house owned by my fiancé's family, just a few close friends, expensive wine, late-night bonfires, and 2 endless days trapped together pretending nothing had happened. The moment we arrived, I knew it was a mistake. The lake stretched dark and endless behind the house, surrounded by thick woods that made the entire place feel isolated from the rest of the world. Beautiful, but unsettling, especially after the messages. I hadn't told Ethan about them yet. Part of me was afraid of his reaction. Another part feared he already knew more than he was admitting. That night, everyone gathered outside near the fire pit while music played softly through hidden speakers. My fiancé drank heavily again, laughing too loudly at stories while barely noticing the silence growing between me and Ethan across the flames. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. My hands trembled slightly before opening it. He's lying to both of you. I looked up instantly. Across the fire, Ethan was already staring at me, like he somehow knew. A few minutes later, I slipped away toward the dock behind the house, desperate for air. Cold wind rolled across the lake while moonlight shimmered over the water. Then footsteps approached behind me. You've been avoiding me, Ethan said quietly. I crossed my arms tightly. Maybe because this entire situation is a disaster. He stopped beside me, close enough for tension to immediately return between us. Do you regret it? He asked softly. The question hurt because I didn't know the answer. That kiss never should have happened, I whispered. But it did. Silence wrapped around us. Dangerous silence. Then he looked at me in a way that shattered every wall I had left. If this is a mistake, he said quietly, why does it feel more honest than anything else in my life? My breath caught, because deep down, I understood exactly what he meant. Before I could answer, movement flashed near the trees behind us. Both of us turned sharply. For one split second, I thought I saw someone standing there watching us. Then they disappeared into the darkness. Fear crawled instantly through my chest. Ethan stepped forward protectively. Did you see that? I nodded slowly, and suddenly the messages didn't feel like games anymore. Someone wasn't just threatening us now. They were following us. Everything exploded the next night. The lake house dinner had started normally. Forced laughter, expensive wine, music playing softly in the background, but tension sat heavily beneath every conversation. I could barely eat. Across the table, Ethan looked just as distracted. And my fiancé? For the first time all weekend, he seemed strangely calm, almost too calm. Then his phone buzzed. He looked down at the screen and smiled. A cold feeling spread through my chest instantly. What? I asked carefully. He placed the phone on the table and leaned back in his chair. I think it's time everyone stopped pretending. The room went silent. My pulse began pounding. Then he picked up the remote beside him and pressed a button. The television mounted on the wall flickered to life, and suddenly, the balcony footage appeared on screen. The kiss. Mine and Ethan's. Every breath left my body. Nobody spoke. The only sound in the room was the quiet crackling of the fireplace as shock settled over everyone watching. I turned toward my fiancé in horror. How did you— You thought I didn't know, he interrupted coldly. Ethan stood immediately. Listen to me. No, my fiancé snapped sharply. You've lied enough. The anger in his voice wasn't heartbreak anymore. It was something darker. Then he looked directly at me. You spent months feeling guilty over one kiss, he said bitterly. Meanwhile, I've been hiding something much worse. Confusion rippled through the room. My chest tightened. What are you talking about? A humorless laugh escaped him. The messages weren't from a stranger, he admitted. They were from the woman I've been seeing for almost a year. Silence crashed around us. I felt physically sick. Ethan froze beside me, and suddenly I realized the terrifying truth. We weren't the only ones living a lie. By morning, the lake house felt like a crime scene after the damage was done. Nobody spoke at breakfast. Some guests had already left before sunrise, desperate to escape the tension hanging over the house. Outside, fog rolled across the lake, turning everything pale and distant. Inside, my entire life felt unrecognizable. I stood alone near the dock, arms wrapped tightly around myself against the cold wind. The events of the night kept replaying in my mind. The video, the confession, the look in my fiancé's eyes when he admitted his own betrayal. Months of guilt had shattered in seconds. Then I heard footsteps behind me. Ethan. For a moment, neither of us spoke. This wasn't supposed to happen, he said quietly. I laughed bitterly. Which part? The kiss? The lies? Or the fact that somehow, through all the destruction, my feelings for him still hadn't disappeared? He stepped closer, slowly. I never wanted to hurt you. But we did hurt people. The honesty in my voice hung painfully between us. He looked toward the water before speaking again. Do you regret us? That question should have been easy. Instead, tears burned behind my eyes. Because despite everything, the guilt, the chaos, the broken relationships, the one thing I couldn't deny was how real it had felt with him. More real than the life I had been trying to force myself into. I regret the lies, I whispered, not the truth. His expression softened painfully. Then my phone buzzed. One final message from the unknown number. Some loves destroy everything before they save you. I stared at the screen silently, while cold wind moved across the lake. And for the first time, I understood the cost of one forbidden kiss. It hadn't just changed our lives. It had exposed the lives we were pretending to live all along.